Modern Mentoring. Come on in. I am so excited about tonight. Please come on in. Go ahead, grab your favorite beverage, get your computers, grab your phone, grab a notepad. Trust me, you want to make sure you have something to type on or write with today. There's going to be so many jewels dropped. So come on in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm going to give it a few more minutes and allow people to join us. I know a lot of people are transitioning from meetings. Some people are just transitioning into workday, into going to dinner or making dinner for the family or for yourself. So come on in, everyone. So glad to have you today. And we are broadcasting live across LinkedIn Live, YouTube, and Twitter. So everyone who's joining us out there, we're so glad to have you. Thank you for joining. We're going to give it just a few more minutes to let everyone join in. We've got a wonderful guest in the house tonight. Hi, Vivian, you're making dinner? Oh, wow, you have to tell me, what are you making? Type it in the chat for me. Yes, come on in. I know I've got people out there trying to prepare dinner, trying to listen to the live. I cannot tell you how much it means to me that you all are such faithful participants in modern mentoring. But come on in. We're going to keep giving it a few more minutes to allow people to come in. Hi, Gabrielle. You're sitting in the airport listening to me. Oh, how sweet. Thank you for joining. Where are you going? Hi, is it Keita? Keita Barnett, welcome. We're so excited to have you. Morgan. Hello, Miss Morgan. We're glad to have you. Hey, Kate. So glad to have you. Oh, plantain and oxtails. Come on, girl. You are throwing down, Miss Vivian, in that kitchen. All right. We also have Deidre in the house. Hello, Deidre. So glad to have you. I see everyone coming in. Newark. You're headed to Newark. You love listening. We're glad to have you. Oh, but let me tell you today, I know I'm the host of this show, but I really feel like I'm going to be a student today. I'm going to be a student right along with you. But let me go ahead and let a few more people join. For those of you joining, welcome, welcome. Hello, Mr. Brian. So glad to have you. So I would love for you all to type in the chat. I would love for you to find 2 words that describe how are you feeling this evening or this morning or afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Hello, Mr. Christopher Koss. I miss you. How are you? It's good to see you out there. Type in 2 words that describe how you're feeling today. All right. I would love to see that. Hello, Don. So glad to have you. Thanks for joining. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I see you all are coming on in. Let's blow up that chat with 2 words to describe how you're feeling today. Exciting and relaxed. I love it. I want to welcome all of you to Modern Mentoring. For those of you that I have not met, I'm Lonnie Phillips. I am your host. Modern Mentoring was a platform that was simply created as a way for me to scale my mentoring efforts. It was just not enough hours in the day for me to be able to connect with everyone. But I really wanted to create a platform where it allowed us to be able to reach people in every corner of the earth that had an interest in trying to figure out how to thrive in corporate spaces. I wanted to create this village, this community of people where we can actually share with you authentically about how to be successful in corporate spaces, and let's learn from one another. That's what this platform is all about. I want to keep it interactive, so feel free to type in your questions in the chat. We will make sure that we pay attention to the chat and ask the questions throughout the day. I also have a Modern Mentoring Village out on LinkedIn. I'd love to encourage you to go ahead and sign up for that. Would love to just stay in touch with you so that you can ask questions throughout a month, away from Modern Mentoring. You may have some things on your mind that you'd love to get some input on. Leverage that village, because there's some incredible people out there who would be willing to support you in any way. I also have made sure that all of the recordings that we have, they are saved on YouTube so that you can access them. I'd love to encourage you to go out to my Lonnie Phillips channel. I would love for you to subscribe to that channel and share those videos if you think that it can help someone. There's no charge for this content, and the reason there is no charge is because my heart is pure. I really want to help somebody. I want to be the person that brings resources to you that I think could really help you. These are resources that I've encountered that have really helped me. And these are the things that I wish I had as I was coming up on my own corporate journey. And I just want to pay it forward. And the only thing I ask in return is for you to pay it forward and tell more people about this community. But why don't we jump in and talk about the conversation for today? All right. Today, we're going to talk about how to build your professional brand on LinkedIn. I want to talk about my intention for today. It's important that we talk about my intention because I have some people out there who are like serious influencers who've been out on social for a very long time. This is probably going to be one of those classes or conversations where you're going to probably feel like you're not going to get as much from it. I really designed this conversation to be for the people who have a lot of different social platforms. You're out here on LinkedIn, you're using it as a bare minimum. You're not really sure what the value is as you're thinking about building your professional brand. You may have a corporate job, you may have a side hustle, you may be an entrepreneur. You're sitting here looking at LinkedIn and you're going, could I be using this more wisely? How should I think about this platform? And how can I take it to the next level? That is what this conversation is about today. And that is my hope for all of you today. I actually met today's guest. I was on my spring break right at about a month ago, and I had an opportunity to participate in a workshop around building your executive brand. And she was talking about how to think about doing that on LinkedIn. And she had me at this part. We were talking about how to use the about section in LinkedIn, and I'm not going to spoil it. And she said it should answer 3 questions. I wrote those 3 questions down. I looked at my about section and I said, boy, I got a lot of work to do. And I recognized that I didn't even have my LinkedIn profile up to the level that it needed to be to take it to the next level. So I had an opportunity to connect with her one-on-one. And I asked her some questions. First of all, thanked her for the course. And I said, I got some basic questions. She blew me away again. And at the end, I was like, do you mind if I invite you to speak to my modern mentoring group? And she said, I would love to. And guess what? Her time was so limited. I was able to squeeze her in today. And we are so delighted to have her. So let me read her profile, bring her out so you all can start to enjoy her. I see a lot of comments in the chat. Kofi, I'm glad you got in. Blessed and awesome. I see your comments out there. Hello, Magda. Oh, Nyasha's out there. Hello, Nyasha. All right. Carol says transitioning and excited. I love that. Okay, so here, let me read her bio to you. Her name is Tyrona Heath, but we call her Ty. She's a director, market engagement, and the B2B Institute at LinkedIn. Ty is passionate about connecting people with information needed to make intelligent decisions, studying the future of B2B marketing and decision making. She's an award-winning marketer, speaker, and get a load of this, you all, 2-time Olympic trials qualifier in the 800 meters. Ty is a top 50 B2B marketing influencer, teaching B2B marketing as well as leadership and diversity, equity, and inclusion. Marketers benefit from Ty's marketing experience at Google, consulting within IBM, and leading her own B2B consulting practice. Ty serves on the Digital Marketing Institute's Global Advisory Council, on the board of directors for the American Advertising Federation, and as an Adobe insider with top executives and experts. So please join me in welcoming Ty. Hi, Ty.
Hi, what an amazing welcome. Oh my gosh, I'm feeling so warm and welcomed to this conversation. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad to have you in once again. Thank you so much for making time for this community.
My pleasure to be here.
So, we don't know a lot about you. So, why don't we start with just give us a little bit about who is Ty the woman?
Sure. So I can talk. I know you talked about the B2B Institute a little bit there, so I can share a little bit about that because that's a big part of my life, and then a little bit more about myself. So I have a wonderful job where I get to be super curious about marketing, behavioral science, the future, the conversation around innovation and marketing, which very much includes brand building, including brand building for yourself and for companies. But the B2B Institute works with leading academics and practitioners to investigate how marketers can provide more value. So we do that through the thought leadership that we develop, through conversations like this one and on stages. And really, we just want everyone to thrive and to use what we can learn about marketing to take anything you're doing to the next level. That could be your business, nonprofit, company, everything, yourself, whatever goals you have in mind, you can apply this to it. I live in New York. I have a rambunctious pit bull named Bailey, who is awesome. That's my buddy, and he's with me all day. I am a travelista, or I should say, even aspiring to be even more of a travelista. If anyone has any like destinations I should visit, let me know. My family's from Jamaica.
You're
My
from
fa-
Jamaica.
Yes, my family's from Jamaica. So I really enjoy traveling there, but I definitely want to explore the African continent more. I saw somebody posted plantains and oxtail. I was like, oh,
That's what she
like,
was cooking.
I need some.
Miss Vivian out there was cooking that for dinner. I know.
I see you, Vivian. Uh, but I love sci-fi. I love reading about behavioral science. So it is truly a passion for me. It's not just my job. It's actually a passion to keep up with behavioral science.
I can tell. I could tell that through the conversation that we've had multiple times now. So I think it's going to feed into our conversation today. And you have a pretty cool job at LinkedIn. So I look forward to all of us benefiting from some of your learnings as you go through your day to day with your job. So let's start at the beginning. We all have access to all of these different social platforms, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when we think about LinkedIn, how should we think about the value of LinkedIn before we start this whole branding story?
Right. So there are so many social platforms out there, and I can guess that a number of folks are on, 4, 5, 6, who knows, and it's hard to figure out where you should spend your time. And I think it's important for you to think about a couple different things. So the first one is, what are you, going back to the 3 questions that you said that I shared with you in the workshop? What are you passionate about? What are you committed to? And what do you aspire to create? Because when you get connected to those questions, you can start to understand, well, what's the best platform for me to fulfill on that for myself? So what are you passionate about? What are you committed to? And what do you aspire to create? Once you're connected to that, then you can get a sense of, well, where is the audience that I need to connect with on that? And there's a lot of different social networks. And I will say my primary networks right now are LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. But LinkedIn was always the first platform for me. It's just the one that resonated the most with me for a couple reasons. I'm a marketer, I'm interested in behavioral science, sharing, and I teach a business, essentially business ideas. And so when you think about what's the distinction between LinkedIn and other platforms, LinkedIn is a professional social network distinct
Yes.
from other networks, which are more personal social networks. That's not to say you shouldn't talk about things that are personal or important to you, because I think there's an expression of that. But you want to think about why people show up to post on LinkedIn. People go on LinkedIn to invest their time. They're there to learn, build networks, connect, grow, get information that they can translate and apply, find jobs, you know, learn, put together events, connect people. So when you're sharing content, you want to think about it in that context. And again, you can bring your authentic human ideas. And I think it's so important that we do, but you want to think about the professional context of LinkedIn as well. And, there are 800 million professionals on LinkedIn today. And it
800.
happens to be one of the only platforms, one of the only social platforms where you can reach four distinct audiences: your employees
Okay.
you work with,
Mm-hmm.
other leaders within your organization to make sure they're up on what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
your customers, and your investors. So this is the only platform where you can actually reach those four audiences. And so if you are doing something where there's a need to connect with those audiences, LinkedIn is the platform. And today it's really expected that as leaders, as growing in our careers, that we have a point of view on what's going on in the world, that we're on top and showing that we're current in the ideas and our expertise that we share every day, because it builds credibility that opens doors with each of those four audiences. So I'll pause there, but those are some.
So you said a lot. So you
Yeah.
capture a couple of things that I heard, and I'm
Mhm.
taking notes, and I'm right here along with you. I'm learning as we go through this conversation. You said that LinkedIn is reaching we have about 800 million on the platform
That's right.
today. Wow,
Hmm.
that is impressive.
Mhm.
Um, the three questions, I want to make sure those three questions land. You feel like your profile should answer these three questions: what
Right.
you're passionate about, what you're committed to, and what you aspire to create. And
Yes.
those three questions are what dictates which platform you may even want to be on. But we should think about LinkedIn as that professional platform to connect with four distinct audiences,
Hmm.
right? I'm
That's
going to
right.
ask you to define the last one: employees,
Hmm.
other leaders,
Right.
customers,
Hmm.
and you said investors. Define investors for me.
Yeah. So investors, let's think about that in a broad way. So investors could be, I need money to fund my business, and I need people
Mhm.
to see that I'm a credible expert, or I know what I'm doing, to be able to galvanize those funds. But investors aren't just the people that provide money to you. There are people who just choose to invest in you with their time, with other resources, with support, by amplifying your content. And so investors are not just, providing cash. There's a whole host of other ways that you can garner support through LinkedIn by reaching investors. And I encourage you to define that broadly, everyone.
Wow, that
Hmm.
is wise. And I could think of the first two where you say someone who may want to invest in your business or your idea. There's some financial piece to it. But
Right.
we forget that there is an investment of time that people
Absolutely.
are doing whenever they go to your page, read any of your content, your post. There's an investment of time. And if they choose to reshare it, that's time, right? And we
Mhm.
should include that as a part of how we define investor as well. Wow.
Absolutely. 'Cause not everyone has the funds, but what we can do for each other as a community is to support each other by sharing somebody's content, by connecting people that have access to other opportunities, or that can help, augment good ideas. So there's way more ways to invest than just money. But money's
Absolutely.
important. We know
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. So I'm going to ask everyone, please leverage the chat, put your questions in there. I want to make sure this is interactive, but I've got a few questions for Ty that I'm going to keep us going and jump right into branding. So, why do you think professional branding is so important? Because everybody's talking about branding now, and I have a lot of people ask me about it. And I am by no means a subject matter expert in this area. I try to stay in my lane. But branding is important as you think about getting your voice out there. So, can you share a little bit more about that?
So I'm going to go to the psychology of it because, I already told you I love behavioral science. But just to start out, business today really is calling for a new breed of leaders,
Yeah.
and it is important for us to, going back to those questions, to communicate what we stand for and also what we don't stand for. And our brand conveys that message. It's out front. It's in front of us. It's in front of us before we step into rooms. It opens doors for you before people hear about you. When I think about link branding on LinkedIn, I call it the conversation before the conversation, because oftentimes before someone actually meets you in person, if you're in the sales business or whatever business you're in, one of the first things people do is they will search for your name. And more often than not, if you have a LinkedIn profile, it's one of the first results. And then the story becomes, well, what story are you telling folks? And branding is important because, especially over the past 20 years, there's been a growing appreciation for assets that underpin the value of brands. So when you think about brand assets and the tangible assets of companies, those can also be applied to thinking about tangible assets of the things that define you and the things that people think about you before you step into a room. These are things that you can invest in and become assets for you. And your executive brand is an asset because it costs time and money for you to build your brand. And people choose to associate with you based on your brand, right? And so, what the brand does for people, if you think about it, whether it's a company brand or an executive brand, personal brand, it says that you stand for something and that people can count on you for something, that you are consistently showing up in a space as an expert of something. That provides security to people who are making decisions as to how to interact with you, whether to do business with you, whether they want to bet on investing in you in some way. Your brand actually de-risks the process for someone making that decision, which can be a flash decision or it can be a longer term decision. And so that is so valuable. If you think about like the most famous people in the world, immediately you think about the things that define them. Like, for example, Dwayne The Rock Johnson or Serena Williams. Like, think about what you think about when you think about them. There are certain things you expect, certain ways they define themselves, how they speak, how they move. You know these things, and it de-risks that for you because you know what to expect. That's why they're famous, because they have what we call mental availability. People remember them. And the brand that's remembered is the brand that's bought, whether it's a business or personal brand. And I don't mean to be crass because we're talking about people here, but your brand is an asset. And I just really want to emphasize that.
I love that. Our brand is our asset. Everyone write that down because I think we need to understand that so that we can slow down and begin to be extremely thoughtful about building that brand and what we want to be known for. So, one of the things that you and I have talked about is the importance of having some thought leadership, especially on a professional platform like LinkedIn. So, how do you kind of think about thought leadership in the context of LinkedIn?
Yes. So let me start by making sure that people understand there's a distinction between your branding and thought leadership. If you are looking to build your brand, you certainly could share educational content that you've read on a particular topic, projects you've done, work you've done, and that's totally fine. That's totally fine. You will continue to build yourself as someone who has knowledge in a particular space. Thought leadership, and I think the term is overused because I think sometimes people use thought leadership and apply it to anyone who's sharing consistently on a particular topic. But thought leadership requires you to push further. This is where you are out front. You are a pioneer, literally leading the space in understanding the complexities of that space, helping people navigate that space that you're an expert in. It means that you're doing research, you're taking insights, you're mashing it up, you're looking at data, you're interpreting the data, you're bringing your own opinions, you're bringing mental models. It is hard work to be a thought leader, and it's not for everyone, but there's great value in being making that investment and thinking about how do you be out front in that space that you're really passionate about? What does it look like to take the different things going on and out in the world, process those insights, and deliver value to your audience? So that's not a simple thing. It's not for everyone, but you could certainly share educational content, but for those who aspire to be thought leaders, that is what's ahead of you. And it's amazing work, especially if it's a topic you're curious about and one that can deliver amazing benefits to you, your business, and also to the world, because you're doing it in service of a community that's trying to chart their path forward in that particular space.
Wow, I love that. And I think a lot of us think we're really being thought leaders when we're not, because we're not pushing the boundaries in regards to being challenging the process, helping people understand a different pivot on the topic versus what's already been published, leveraging the data, staying curious, bringing some real life examples to tell the stories. I can see where you can just really be a pioneer in something versus just rinse and repeat a bunch of content that you've received. So let's have real talk about just branding and some of the basics that I thought was wise that you shared with us around how to think about building that initial brand on LinkedIn. And I'll just pause and let you just impart a ton of wisdom on us all how to think about doing that on LinkedIn. So you have
Yeah,
the
absolutely. So building your brand on LinkedIn. I mean, I talked about your profile. That's really your home base. That's where you start your investment. And, go back to the questions that we talked about earlier. Start to answer that for yourself. As Lonnie shared, these are things that you can now put into the about section of your profile that help people understand a little bit more about you. Who do you serve? What do you stand for? How do you deliver your expertise in a way that makes you unique? Right now, there are a couple different ways to think about telling the story of what you stand for. One of the things to think about is if you have a particular idea in your about page, in your about section, your summary, your title, how is that being reflected in the message? So let's pretend, for example, we're all working for a company that invests in brand transformation. So as building your brand, perhaps every year your company puts out a report on brand transformation. So it's called Art of Brand Transformation 2021, 2022, 2023. So there's something consistent going out on that topic. So as you do that, you now in your profile, you can say, I'm a champion and a pioneer for brand transformation. So that's one expression of the content that you're putting out into the world. And as you share the content, you want to think about a couple different angles for sharing that content on LinkedIn. So things like sharing other stories of how brand transformation is taking place within your category, telling stories of how your business is actively working on transformation. This means bringing in employee voices and other things going on within your company. And then also telling your customer stories. So, not in a way that's salesy, but in a way that you share what's happened in the work you're doing with your customers. And then you'll always want to think about using hashtags as you share the content because that amplifies it. You want to @tag people who are either other voices in the space or people you can count on, people that have a point of view on the topic. That way they see it and they can respond to it. Don't leave people hanging too when they comment on your posts, when you share. You definitely want to keep that going. So those are some of the things that you can do from a content perspective. Fundamentally, from your profile perspective, picture. You want to have an amazing picture. It doesn't have to be professionally done. You can have someone take a picture of you, and it can be an expression of the type of job you're in. So if you're a ballerina like Misty Copeland, maybe you're dancing, just have it reflect you. You've got the banner there behind you also, where you can tell a story. You can either promote your brand, you can share a picture of a product that you deliver. You can promote your mission or your message in that banner. So there's a lot of different ways for you to utilize that banner. And then I want you to fully fill out your professional background. Make sure that you spend the most time on the things you've done most recently, and aim angle it towards what you're trying to do in the future. A lot of people like to talk about the past, but I think there's an opportunity there for you to angle, what are you trying to do? Go to that question, what do you aspire to do? Where are you going? And especially with the latest job that you have. And make sure that you also add skills that people can endorse you for, because those are the ways that people find you in the searches. So you want to add at least 5, both hard and soft skills. You want to make sure that you have recommendations from people. The best time to get those, I'm going really fast here, Lonnie, to make sure we get it all.
Go ahead.
You want to have recommendations. The best time for you to ask for recommendations from people is after you finished a project and knocked it out of the park. And then you can say, hey, that project we just worked on, would you mind, completing this recommendation for me? Or I know a number of people work for companies where you have to submit reviews for other people. Why not say, hey, that review you submitted for me, would you mind posting that on my LinkedIn profile? So you want to consistently do that so you can build up recognition for yourself in your profile. And then there's an opportunity for you to say what you care about. So what volunteer places are you working with right now? Those are amazing. That's amazing additional things to round out your profile. Where did you go to school? What did you study? Keeping in mind, everybody, that every single touch point that you put in your profile that talks about you is an opportunity for someone to connect with you. One of the things that really dictate whether or not people respond to you when you reach out to them is as simple as, do you have something in common with them?
Because that's what people go to LinkedIn for, right? To look for something that you may have in common.
That's right. That's right. So did you go to school with them? Are you interested in the same things? Like, everything you put in there provides even another touch point for someone to connect with you.
I love that. We've got a couple of comments. Let's kind of refer to some of the comments. Someone said excellent distinction on thought leadership, so I want to give you credit for that. 100% on the engagement of content. When people comment on your posts, comment back. I really try to be diligent about that. Sometimes it's tough. Brian, thank you for that comment. Leslie Gordon shared, fun picture fact, we have a LinkedIn photo booth in the EBC in Redmond. This is at Microsoft, and
oh, nice.
In Silicon Valley. Reach out to her for more information. Thank you, Leslie. Here's a question though. Kofi has, I am a known indie hip hop artist, recording artist, who is now focused on branding my invention. Artist, can you see her comment? Brush. I hope I'm saying it correctly. It's on the screen now. How can I show to be professional as a startup?
Yes, yes. So this is a great opportunity for you. I think the first step is to really think about how you want to build out your profile and tell your story, right? You will, as you show up on LinkedIn with your banner, because I mean, as an artist, I'm sure there's like amazing pictures you have, things that tell the story about your invention. You can tell stories about the process you went through to put the invention together, who's working on it with you. Are you on tour? Even video clips. I want to be so clear about this. LinkedIn isn't just for certain, as people define, like the stereotypical professional. LinkedIn is for all professionals. And so I think there's amazing opportunity for you to tell a dynamic story about your journey as an artist. If you're creating content, even posting clips of, performances, showing, how you're getting from one point to another, there are amazing stories to tell about how you build. The things to think about are, well, what do you want to be known for? What are the different hashtags, or what are the different things that your audience can get connected to about you? And then from a standpoint of building your business, and you want to grow it, and you probably may want investors as well. So what is the angle there to reach your investor audience, to do outreach to your investor audience? And again, that doesn't have to just mean folks that give you money, but outside of that, how can you strategically and intentionally grow your connections such that every time you post, you make a bigger and bigger splash over time? And that means thinking about every single opportunity out in the world, or virtually, because we're all on virtual these days a lot, is an opportunity for you to grow your network. So when you post, I want you in conversation with people in that post. I want you to follow people back. And when you go to the, real world events, there's an amazing QR code feature on your phone where you can connect with people. When you go to investor networking meetings, you can connect with them. So I can go on and on. I don't want to take up all the time, but I just want you to get just a flavor of some of these ideas that can help you really use LinkedIn as a launch pad.
Awesome. Kofi said, awesome. Great advice. Thanks so much. Let's talk about, first of all, you gave us some wise counsel in terms of how to think about building out your profile within LinkedIn, and some best practices around building out a very thoughtful LinkedIn profile. Question that comes to mind for me is, I have people ask me all the time, is it important they narrow their focus, or is it okay that they're just a generalist out there? What are your points of view on that?
Yeah. So broad versus narrow. So you'll want to think about a couple things. So one, I tend to be a reach maximalist when it comes to building your brand. I think, for example, as you're thinking about building, the more niche you are, the longer it takes, but you still want to be relevant across your category.
Okay.
So let me give you an example.
Okay.
If you think about B2B marketing, for example, and if I'm selling cloud computing,
Mm-hmm.
right? If I am talking to everyone in B2B and I'm talking about cloud computing, I not everyone in the category is going to be ready to buy cloud computing.
Right.
But if I'm selling toothpaste, I can broadcast to everyone who has teeth, right? Because everyone is buying toothpaste. So you want to think about, like, what is it that you're trying to sell, and where do you fit in that spectrum in terms of like the audience you're trying to command? Because what you want is relevant reach, right? So the biggest possible reach you can get in a particular category is what's going to help you build. And then as you start to get people that are ready to buy from you or ready to interact with you, that's when you can get more niche. So broadest possible reach, but I think you also have a way to capture the conversation with folks that are really down at that level and really talking about that specific topic. So what I'm trying to say is both, but I'm a reach maximalist, and you should, I think, try to build with the biggest possible audience that you can get to, because guess what? If you exclude people, you're making a lot of assumptions about whether or not they might work with you, and you're excluding people that might benefit from working with you because you're making an assumption by being very niche that they're not interested in you or your services, or whatever it is that you're talking about. Does that make sense, folks? Tell me if that doesn't make sense.
Guys, if that makes sense to you all out there, it definitely makes sense to me, because I think one of the things that I'm trying to be mindful of is I want to be more inclusive and not have bias enter into the equation where you're excluding people that could really be a valuable part of your network to help extend whatever vision you may have. And I'm trying to keep it broad enough so that we're not so specific. But I do think that is helpful. Because if
Exactly.
you make those decisions for people, then you're going to find that you have these very narrow networks, and you'll find it'll get harder and harder to land some of the things that you're working on. So
That's
I definitely
right.
see a reach maximalist. I love
Yep.
that. We do have, and I did hear people confirming that, yes, it makes sense. So,
Hmm.
hello, Jason. It's good to have you out there. Can you talk about alter ego, meaning you work in company X doing job X, but also doing a bit of moonlighting, doing
Mm.
passion project Y? How do we co-brand, or is that just confusing your audience? No, a lot of people are doing that right now.
I
What
love
do
this question. I love this question because so many of this is like all of us, or so many of us these days.
you
Like nobody is like one thing only. We're a lot of things. We're a lot of things, and I think the most beautiful things happen at the intersection of other things.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly what the alter ego is, the connect, but I would venture to say that there's always a way to tell the story, the full story about who you are. And people aren't just interested in hearing about your job. They're also interested in hearing about the other things you are up to and want to take on. Obviously, some companies have certain policies on certain things. And so I want to advise you, if you are in one of those companies or spaces, that you should use your discretion in terms of sharing broadly about other projects and things you're working on. But for the most part, we live in a world where people understand that we're multifaceted humans who are up to a lot of things. I love marketing at the intersection of behavioral science and diversity, equity, and inclusion. I post about all of those things, and I think it's really powerful when you can bring all of those things together into one story. So I encourage you to share and to think about the linkages between those things, and think about how that makes your profile even richer, in telling the full story of who you are. And if that didn't answer your question, definitely reach out to me.
Yes, I think that probably answered his question, and I'd love to piggyback on the back of that. So, those
Sure.
of you that work for companies where there is a moonlighting policy, please make sure you familiarize yourself with that. And usually, if you're not doing something that conflicts with the business, it's totally okay. I also want everyone to be mindful who's kind of doing the dual thing, to remember that there's also benefit to the company. For you to have these passion projects that you're working on, there's also a way for you to be able to amplify the great company that you work for as well. But just to be mindful of how you show up, because you still have your day job or your night job, whichever way it works for you. And then you have your passion project that you're
Right.
working on. So you want to just make sure you're respectful with that as well. But I think it can be a good thing. And I think you offered some great advice there in terms of how to tell the story around that, because I think there is value and beautiful things come out of those linkages, as you mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
Vivian has a question out here. She says, in the constant changing landscape of social media, we always feel like we need to change or adopt to stay relevant.
Mm.
How do we find balance?
Yeah. You know what? I think new and fresh, new and fresh, and new and fresh, and new and fresh is overrated.
Yeah.
I honestly do. I think, and this is coming from a marketer, where there's a lot of pressure on us to always have something new and fresh.
Mhm.
But the reality is, if you don't invest in something consistently over time, then it doesn't have time to grow brand equity. So I actually think the power of brand building is in defining distinctive assets for yourself, and then investing in those distinctive assets consistently over time. So, I would say, regardless of whatever social networks pop up now and in the future, and there's like 10 of them every day, I know this, and whatever ideas, as long as you keep your foundational roots and your brand distinctive, and choose a theme and invest in it, that's how you start to build. There's a story of Tropicana. At one point, so Tropicana, they're the brand that has like the orange on the carton, right? So At one point, their marketing team decided to change the packaging on the box. And guess what happened? When people got to the grocery store, they couldn't find it, and therefore their sales went way down. And so they went back to the recognizable orange with the straw stuck in it because that's what people connected to tropical.
Connected to the brand. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So that's not different for you. If the consistency over time on a topic with a consistent, distinctive feel in terms of the assets around you will perform the same way as you invest in your own personal brand. So no need to push back on the new, fresh, new, fresh. We do need to revamp every once in a while, but I would venture to say it's less often than we would think.
Wow, that's gold. Vivian said that's gold. I'm going to have to agree with that. So let's talk about, because time is getting away from us already, and I want to address this long form content and short form content. I think people are wondering where to invest the time. And I think some people are also wondering if the algorithms recognize, long form content separate from the short form content, and where should they put the energy? How do you think about that and advise others to think about leveraging that content?
Yeah, yeah. So again, this is one of those things, consistency over time. Um, I advise everyone, and I'm not just saying this because I work for LinkedIn, but to make some time every day to do some interaction on LinkedIn. And it could be that you post 1 to 3 times a day. Maybe it's one post for yourself, or it's could be 3 comments or 3 interactions. You can just change how you vary it in terms of your short form posts. Some of the things I said earlier about the best practices definitely ring true. Again, like using the @ to bring people in, using hashtags. You can always bounce off of other people's posts. You can bounce off of company posts. So there's a couple different ways for you to bring that to life. And I encourage you all to really check out video. Video's hot. It's not going anywhere. It's
No.
actually a big way that people consume content today. You don't need a fancy recording studio to record yourself on. You can use your phone, and I know your phone has high quality HD level stuff. So there are a lot of different things. Keep it short and tight. Lead with the best thing so you can get people brought into that video that you're shooting. So there's a couple tips there for short-term posts. Now, I would mix in some long form posts every once in a while. So now I'm talking to bloggers, writers, creators out there who are article writers. This is where you can go deep. This is where you can really show your expertise on a topic. Remember how I said earlier, LinkedIn is the conversation before the conversation?
Yes.
One of the most prominent aspects of your LinkedIn profile are the articles section and the content that you choose to feature. Especially if you turn on creator mode, which is a mode that allows you to really boost the content that you develop and that you can share. And so,
Pause there for a second.
yes.
Creator mode. Because this was the question I brought to you, you remember? This is one of my questions. I talked to 5 people, and 5 people could not tell me this, but she told me when I had that one-on-one. Creator mode, everyone. When you look at someone's profile and you see they talk about hashtag a bunch of topics,
Mm-hmm.
where you define that once you turn on creator mode, you can go in and choose your 5 topics that will show up in your profile. That is going to help somebody. I didn't mean to take you off track, but you
That's
talked
right. No, you're right. You're right. We had to highlight that because again, if you're a blogger, if you're a writer, if you're someone who's consistently creating content, that is for you to definitely check that out. And yes, regardless, your long form post, your article are one of the things you can feature. Now, going back to what I said about how people find you, when they search your name, or when someone shares your LinkedIn profile with them, they go in, they scan down, oh, look at these articles. They click into the article, and now they're reading about something that you're an expert in. Let's say you're interviewing for a job. Let's say you're going into a sales meeting. This is an opportunity for you to demonstrate your expertise before that person meets you, right? And so there's a pro tip there. You want to really pay attention to the title. You want to use an amazing banner image. There are great places where you can get images to use in the header or take your own pictures, of course. You could do that. Make sure you're citing your sources as you link and make your case. And then also don't forget at the bottom of your article to say a little bit more about who you are and what you stand for, and offer other ways for people to connect with you. So I just think it's an amazing tool that is underused, but it's a powerful component of how people learn about you within your profile.
I love that. And I probably need to do it more. I need to be more consistent with it. And I love the fact that you can use it as a way to showcase your thought, your perspective, since we overuse thought leadership. But
unless you are doing thought leadership, I mean,
that's true. Right? That's true. That is an opportunity for your ideas out there, and it would allow prospective people that are looking to work with you or hire you for them to really understand your point of view. Now, you shared there's a way to pull down banners. There's some tools. Why don't you share maybe 2 tools that may be helpful to someone?
Yeah, I love Unsplash is a great place to find images that you can use in your header profile. And then I mean, there's so many of these sites. Unsplash is just, I really like the way they do it. But I also encourage you to think about creating your own. And one of my favorite tools for doing that type of thing is Canva. A lot of people have probably heard of Canva, but it allows you to like just put together really professional images. And also some of you might be at that time where you need to hire, somebody to help you with graphic design. You might be at that level as well, where you need some support in actually designing your brand for you. And there are a lot of amazing professionals that do that type of work as well.
I love that. Thank you. Unsplash, adding it to my list. Love Canva. But I agree. Sometimes we can outsource and get designers, people who can do a better job than we can. We have a question out here from Brian. So Ty, what are your thoughts on social audio to build up your brand with LinkedIn audio and beta and other social tools, Twitter Spaces, Clubhouse, etc.? Is there an area to expand? Is this an area to expand your brand?
Oh my gosh, podcasts are so hot right now. Do you agree, Lonnie? I have like a number of podcasts that I listen to. I'm actually contemplating doing something on LinkedIn myself. I think it's worth a try, folks. Let's just see how it's growing and how many people are listening to podcasts, while we're cooking, while we're working. I think it's just become a big part of life. And on any nascent platform, there's an opportunity. Obviously it's like venture, but I encourage you to give it a shot.
I would agree. I think it's going to be super powerful. Please take a look at the comments. There's so many wonderful things out here. I really want to ask this last question because I want to be mindful of time. But what are some strategies you've seen around people growing their network? So you have a lot of people on LinkedIn that's been hovering around a certain number of followers. Let's say maybe they've hovered around 200. How can you think about growing that followership on LinkedIn?
Yep. Number one, let me give you like a enumerated list here. Number one, optimize your profile so people can find you. And that means like doing all the things that I talked about, making sure all of those skills are there, the keywords in your about. Think about the things you want to be found for, bring those words into your profile. So number one, profile optimization, start there. Number two, every single opportunity is an opportunity for you to grow your connections. You just I think it's about thinking differently about how you move through life and how you want to build your network and how you want to grow your influence. So for example, when we're out in the world and at events, and we're increasingly doing that, to be intentional about who you meet and actually taking that extra step of connecting with them. Or in a virtual situation like this, let's say you really loved a comment someone made, or there was a profound point made. connect with that person, big them up, amplify. It's not just about us, it's about the community that we're looking to build. So as you post on particular hashtags, and use particular hashtags, and people are commenting and sharing and having a conversation, those are the folks you start to connect to, and that leads to intentional growth over time. A lot of people think it's, you post and then you walk away. That's not the point. The point of all of this is to drive conversation on topics that matter. So every single thing you do, opportunity to grow your network, whether you're doing it online, and I think I mentioned QR code that helps make it easy for you to go offline, to the extent that you attend, workshops or go through cohorts of things at work. Why not keep the cohort together by connecting? And
Yeah.
so, folks, the point I'm making is that start to shift your thinking into every single thing you do and the people you meet as you move through life is an opportunity to build. And then you'll start to think, how do I stay connected with this person? Or how do I help this person? And I think that's just a shift, to be intentional about how you do that. Everything.
Those are such wonderful nuggets that I think everyone on this call should make sure that they practice. I don't know about you, I'm sure you're in the same boat I'm in. There's a scenario that I keep encountering on LinkedIn where someone will reach out to you and they immediately reach out to you asking you for something.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about? They're
Yep.
trying, I think they're using you as kind of like you popped up in their feed as someone that they think they should do business with, and then they lead with that. I usually do not take the bait anytime that happens. But do
Mm-hmm.
you know when I have taken the bait, and I'm sure this is a lot of people out here, is when someone genuinely comments on something that I've been working on or we had an experience together, and they just are reaching out because they want to get to know you. They just want to meet someone new in their network. I have taken several calls like that. My first one, it was Dr. Laura Seal. She was one of my first
Mm-hmm.
guests on here. I took that call because she genuinely was just reaching out because she had seen some of my work and just wanted to meet me. And I had the loveliest conversation with her on the phone and didn't even want to hang up. We found
Yeah.
out we had so much in common. And I think people really need to understand that people are looking for genuine, authentic
That's
connection.
so true. That's so true. It's so true. A simple thank you to someone, a simple, that was a really excellent point you made. And here's what I liked about what you said. Like, you'd be surprised. Because, we want people, we're all in this virtual world, but we're still human, and we crave those deeper levels of connection. And this is a tool that helps facilitate it, but then there's nothing like, then the point of this tool is to then take it to the next level and have a conversation in the real world, work on something in the real world, build something with other people, share an idea, bring an idea forth with a community in the real world as a result of this amazing tool that you have to pull those things together.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Ty, you have shared so much incredible information with us today. I'd like for our audience to take a minute. I know you probably have quite a few notes right now. Would love for you to type in what is one key learning you had today. And I'm going to say my key learning for today. There's so many. I've got all my little notes here. I'm going to still come back to the one that was my aha when I went to your workshop, which is,
Mm.
am I really communicating what I'm passionate about, what I'm committed to, and what I aspire to create? And what I would add to that is to really think about the investments people are making in me, but also where am I making investments as well?
Right.
Right?
Right.
Making sure that it's reciprocal.
Yeah, and can I just acknowledge you real quick for this beautiful space that you've created, where you've essentially, scaled your ability to just connect with people and bring people together on topics that help move things forward. I just want to acknowledge you for who you are, that shows up this way for people.
I thank you. And I have to acknowledge you back. You're doing incredible work. I am so glad our paths crossed. You
Likewise.
are, oh my goodness, you are a fountain of information as it relates to B2B marketing and branding and knowing your space at LinkedIn. I'm so glad we have you over there. Thank you for sharing with this community a lot of great information. How can people find out more about the work that you're doing, Ty?
You know what I'm going to say.
Oh,
Connect with me on LinkedIn, folks.
there you
I want to follow your journey, and I encourage you to connect with me. That's a great way to stay in touch and just keep up with what I'm up to, and then I get to see what you're doing too.
Absolutely. I want to thank our audience for joining today. Show Ty some love in the chat. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for sharing with this community. I hope that we can have you back. There's so much more we need to learn from you, but I think we all need to put into practice all the things we learned today. You shared a wealth of information. And again, I want to thank everyone for joining today. I hope you found this extremely valuable. This was one of those experiences that I had to bring to this community. And I hope you all put a lot of this key learning into practice. And until next time, I look forward to connecting with you all on our social channels, and you all continue to be well and healthy. So thanks for joining tonight, everyone. All right. Thank you again, Ty.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great night, day, or wherever you are in the world.
Yes.